Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Money Matters Top Tips for Success, where each and every day I bring on new business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and have them share their top tips for success with you. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, moneymatterstoptips.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Conni Medina on the line, and she's President and CEO over at Clarity Consulting. Conni, welcome to the show.
Hi, Adam. Thanks for having me.
So I'm excited to get into our topic today, which is essentially fueling growth and reaching big goals. But I mean, a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, executives listening, and I know the ones that listen to us regularly, they're looking for growth. But before we get into that, I do want to get a little bit further into your background. So how did you get started in your career in business?
Well, it's kind of a funny evolution. When I was a kid, I always enjoyed projects. So anything that was creating something out of nothing. In high school, I loved to do anything that had to do with a project. I led our massive homecoming activities, organized proms, formals. I led the annual school fashion show. If there was an activity that needed a clipboard, a schedule, and sticky notes, I was the first person in line to lead it.
We would have been best friends. I sought you out when I was a kid. I'm like, who is the girl that likes projects? She's going to help me succeed.
I loved to do projects. So, once I got out as a working professional, I've always worked in deadline-driven and results-driven industries. It's been communication, public relations, education and learning, and most recently in product development. And I truly just thrive on defining where we want to go, what we want it to look like, and then creating a plan that actually gets us there, which inevitably is going to have a ton of bumps and roadblocks along the way. No good project is a good project unless you hit a whole bunch of roadblocks along the way. We used to laugh and say project management should be called problem management, but hey, that's kind of how the fun is of that line of work. So when I decided to leave corporate life a few months ago and start my own company, I decided to really share this passion and expertise from my career with other leaders and other business owners.
Man, that's so exciting. And first off, congrats on launching your business. That's amazing.
Thanks.
Never an easy thing to do. Love it. Number two, let's just get right into Clarity Consulting. So tell us a little bit more about your vision for the company and what kind of clients you like to help.
Sure. So I have a favorite saying. It is, achievement doesn't happen by accident. So, what leader or business owner do you know doesn't want to grow, doesn't want to achieve something bigger or new, whether that's being promoted or moving to a new company in a senior capacity or growing their existing business? So at Clarity Consulting, I help leaders and businesses work better and achieve more. So some of my favorite clients to work with are leaders and small business owners who struggle with idea overload. You probably know some of them. They have
me. I'm raising my hand as you speak. You can't see me, but I'm raising my hand. Yes.
Oh, so too many ideas and not enough focus and follow through to really support what they want to achieve. And their teams and their businesses often reflect that, and they are really frustrated with poor communication that they see. They're not really able to delegate effectively. Employees are getting frustrated because they feel like they don't really have a clear sense of where they're going. So I help them gain clarity by narrowing their focus and creating actionable plans to help them get where they want to be, because they are really motivated, right, and they are really driven, and then helping them simplify what they do in their day-to-day work so that they can actually achieve the visions that they have. Another great client I love to work with are leaders who favor likability over results. So these leaders often feel really stressed because they're constantly resolving everyone else's problems and issues, but never really building up their own team in a way that the team can be great contributors. And so often what they observe are their high achievers are unhappy and frustrated, and their low performers are just kind of going through the motions. And most of them are seeing that in the business with being reflected with low profitability and slowing growth at the company. So again, that's a great partnership for me to come in and help them gain that clarity and really committing to what they want to be as a leader or what they want to achieve as a business, and then helping them make a plan to follow through to get there. Because again, they typically are resistant to being clear in what they're looking for from their team and their business and really following through on that.
Man, I love that. I love your thought process. I love your focus. And it's so funny because when you say it, it sounds so simple, but I'm like, man, it took me and my team almost 3 years to really narrow down our focus of what we want to do in media. And it was like, man, the amount of hours, and it's not because nobody's working or anything else, but we finally nailed it down to be the #1 business podcast and source for co-authored books in the world. Like one simple statement, but it took 3 years to get to that simple. And once we really had it defined, amazing how our growth just exploded. Week after week, everything, records all around, like all around, every metric we track records. And I'm like, well, gosh, why didn't we start out with that one simple statement? Like, because we didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. So when you said, I know you know some people, I'm raising my hand. You can't see me, but I'm raising my hand, and so is my team. So I do want to.
It's a common challenge.
So, Conni, there's one part that I think that it's really interesting. So, consistency to fuel growth, and so combining with the clarity. So, you spoke with, you kind of touched on the clarity, but I want to go a little bit more into what that consistency component looks like combined with the clarity, because I think those two sometimes. So now, for example, I mean, we have the mission, we know what it is, but consistency and execution, I mean, that's where the proof's going to come from long term.
Right. So this system that I help with my clients is really this 3-part framework. It's first with the clarity, secondly comes the commitment, and the third piece is consistency. And the reason that the clarity is first is really for the story that you just shared, right? So if you don't know where you're going, there's no kind of action plan or simplified routines or processes. None of that, no productivity tips are going to help you if you haven't really establish clearly where you're going. So a great story I share with my clients is, let's say I'm your boss and I say to you, you know what, we're going to run a race and I want you to get ready, get training, here's the date, and we're going to run a race. Right? And you go out and you think, oh my gosh, all this training, we're going to go run a marathon, right? So you go do everything that you think you need to do to be the best you can be on that day to run a marathon. And you show up on race day and the race is actually a 100-meter sprint.
Oh, come on.
You're not prepared for it, right? Because the actual
why did they tell me? You're right.
But the end goal wasn't really, the objective wasn't really clear, and it wasn't conveyed clearly to everyone involved. So that clarity piece, whether that's for an individual leader who might say to me, I want to be a more effective leader. We have to dig into what that looks like. What's not effective for you now, so that we can create a plan to help you go from where you are to where you want to be, right? And being a more effective leader might look very different for me versus you versus another business owner. So the clarity piece is really critical, and that's where we start with goal setting and really making sure we've defined it in a very, very explicit way. So that's first. Then we can go into the second piece, which is commitment. So taking this big, lofty goal and breaking it down into something actionable, because that's where people can start to get lost. It's really exciting and kind of romantic to have a big goal, right? It sounds great to go tell people. It sounds great to say that to your board or to your leadership team, but you have to have an actionable plan, something you can break down into quarterly goals or monthly goals. Many of them go down into weekly goals that I am looking to achieve in my business, and in some cases, daily activities, so that I'm every single day, every single week, every single month doing the things that I know are leading me toward this goal that I've defined. So that's really the second piece. And having measurements and things that kind of show you whether you're hitting your goal or not. Because if you aren't, then it gives you the opportunity to pivot and redirect what you're doing more quickly, because you're recognizing that, because you've got those measures in place. So then we get to the third piece, which is the consistency. And that's what really simplifies and ensures the quality in all that you do. So, most of the leaders that I'm working with are reporting that they're, stressed, they're frazzled. I'm putting out fires all day. I'm being interrupted all day long. Everyone's coming to me with their questions. I feel like I'm, constantly helping everyone else fix whatever is going on. But the standard things that are happening, so for you, setting up podcast guests, you're doing that every single day. So there should be a very, very simple process behind that that's really repeatable so that you can scale. So as you bring on new people, those people are able to step into those processes, know exactly what's expected, right? So they're getting onboarded more quickly. Your podcast guest experience is much better. Your team is working more smoothly, right? And all of those things should be happening because inevitably there's going to be a problem, right, that you're going to have to deal with. But when the common day-to-day routines and activities of a leader's work or a business's work are really consistently defined and followed, then that allows for more time and space for strategic activities or business growth or new client development, which are always key for most leaders and business owners. And then, on the second part of it is leaving time for solving problems that are inevitably going to come up.
That's awesome. So, Conni, first off, I could talk to you all day long about this. I have like 50 million other questions. I'm like, but we're about out of time. So that being said, if somebody is listening to this right now and they were raising their hand along with me in terms of needing help in some of these areas, what's the best way for them to reach out and to learn more about Clarity Consulting?
Great. So they can go to my website. It's clarityconsultinginc.com. I also am very active on LinkedIn, and they can look me up there, Conni Medina on LinkedIn. I have a lot of great content there as well, and can reach out to me through LinkedIn, or just email me directly, Conni, C-O-N-N-I, no E, at clarityconsultinginc.com.
Perfect. Well, hey, Conni, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background and all the great work you're doing over at Clarity Consulting to help your clients. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Without you listening, there is no show, so thank you. And don't forget, subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Money Matters Top Tips, leave us some comments on the video. Let us know what you think about Clarity and some of the objectives we've talked about today. So really appreciate that, and I love to engage in dialogue there with you, of course. And Conni, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.